recording. So welcome. I know that there are probably some people that are still going to be arriving, and if you've arrived late and missed the welcome, you are still welcome. And I know that makes no sense, but that's how I roll. So, so we have lots of people I've seen on Facebook. Luca, Thomas, Sandra, Joy, we were messaging. Sophia, Sonia, Valerie, Rachel, Sarah, good to see you. Vips, Chef, and Jody. Kelly, there you are, hiding behind your mug. Maybe I should do that. I'll hide behind my glass. It's a little bit like how I feel right now. Let's all get our beverages. Okay, so this is going to be a call like I've probably never done before, and I may never do again, who knows. This is in response to what I've been observing in the media, in social media particularly, this theme, there's a real move and a real movement about stopping child sex trafficking. And there's been a couple of things. So on the one hand, part of me is, I feel I really want to celebrate this. You know, this is something, it's almost like it's been a taboo subject for a long time. Certainly from I'm going to use the word victim, but I don't mean it like that. It's just like the receiver. It's just like that. It's clear who I'm talking about. But the word victim is not something, it's not a label I put on myself. So I want to just put some frames. So I'm going to explain why I was called to do this. So two things happened kind of within a matter of months of each other. This incredible movement towards hey Valerie, towards stopping child sex trafficking. So this was coming into people's awareness in a way that it never had. And at the same time, at the sort of almost the same moment, I heard that the headmaster of the school that I went to, where I'm going to use the word sex trafficked, although it's not how most people, it's nothing like what most people think. And that's one of the reasons why I was called to do this, to share this. And I wanted to share it here in this intimate setting so that I could share, I could speak from my naked heart. So this is my naked heart speaking to you, sharing my experiences. And you know, like some people might say, that's not sex trafficking. That's not how that works. And I'm, you know what, it's like, if that's not your perception of it, that's fine. I'm not here to, I'm not here to, this isn't about information. This isn't about facts and figures and numbers. This isn't about me telling you and me telling anyone that they're wrong and I'm right. There's nothing to do with that. What I'm going to share is my experience personally, and my experience as a coach, as a therapist, as a healer, working with hundreds of people, hundreds and hundreds. I haven't even counted them, but it could even be thousands of men, women, young adults, kids who have experienced something that might be called sex trafficking. They've certainly experienced something that would be called childhood sexual abuse. So Catherine, I'm going to make you, or you are co-host. Are you able to mute anyone and everyone when they, for me? I've lost you, Catherine. There you are up there.
I'm here.
Cool. If you could mute people, that would be great. So the purpose of this call is for me to share my experience with the intention of getting the message out there, because I think it's great. I think it's absolutely fantastic that people want to stop this. But if people don't know how it really happens and how it really works, then they're trying to stop the wrong thing, that where their focus is in the wrong place, and that doesn't solve it. So I'm going to share my story and how my story is not that unusual. So as I said, the reason I'm doing this now, so I've shared my story before lots of times, I've written a book about it, but the reason I'm doing this now in this way is because two things happened. The headmaster of my school has recently been arrested and is currently in jail pending trial for I don't know if he's running or certainly significantly involved in managing, coordinating a pedophile ring, where he used his position in a number of schools to groom both children and teachers who would be likely to, who were or would be likely to be pedophiles, with the view to kind of passing kids around. So the first thing I want to say, because I'm so called to say this, so I'm sorry to just say, put a few caveats around this. I would love for you to put on hold and suspend your judgment and your preconceived ideas about how you think it works for most people. What you've seen on social media with, you know, kids in chains, locked in basements, and very little kids, that is, I'm sure that happens, but that is very far from the norm. And the way it happens, that's far more common, is in a way that's far more insidious, and it's actually much harder to tackle. The kidnapping, you know, the kids in the trunks of, you know, in boots of cars and in chains in basements, you know, that's rare. Like, I'm sure that does happen. I've actually never, oh no, I tell you what, I know I've worked with one of my nearly 1,000 clients who actually was chained. All the rest, every other one, the enslavement was not a physical enslavement. It was an enslavement of the mind. So my intention is to share my story so that you understand how that enslavement happens, because that's where we need to go. That's what we need to solve, and that's what we need to stop this happening, to stop the enslavement of the mind. If at any time I'm saying something that you have questions about, I want to make this like an open kind of dialogue. So just some kind of frames around this. Please avoid any temptation to do several things. One is pigeonhole me as a victim, as being damaged in any way. That is not my experience of life. Please avoid please avoid any temptation to make this a pity fest, whether you're pitying me or pitying other people, because that doesn't solve this and it doesn't help them. And if I get time today, I'll do it. But if I don't, I'm actually think the number of questions and the kinds of questions that have come up, this will likely be several calls. And you don't need to attend all. I mean, you do. I mean, you can just do what you like. This is just me sharing my naked heart. If you want to be here, great. So at some point on some of these sessions, I will be sharing a whole bunch of things that I would strongly encourage you to never do if you actually want to help someone. Because most people think that what they do, when they're huge, you know, like their big loving heart wants to help, and they're doing exactly the things that don't really help. So avoid pigeonholing me, avoid any judgment. And I'm also going to invite you to avoid any temptation to go into this place of, which I see a lot, which is this place of demonizing pedophiles. And you might go like, what? How can she possibly say that? And through my story, you will understand how I've got to where I've got to with this, because that doesn't solve the problem. And it's a bit like this. So I'm going to use a metaphor. I'm going to start with a metaphor. If you've been bitten by a snake and you know you have a finite, you've got, you know, like this is a deadly snake, but if you get to hospital and you get the antivenom, you'll survive. What's the first thing you're going to do? Is it A, chase after the snake and kill it? Or is it B, get yourself to hospital to the antivenom? Most people are going to say get them. I mean, some people are weird and they, you know, like, and that's okay. If you want to go kill the snake and in turn kill yourself, great. That's fine. That's your choice. The next thing is like, if you've got to hospital, you've got the antivenom, life is now great. You're living a life of joy. Do you go out back into the bush, find that damn snake and kill it? Do you do that? My guess is Probably no. And the reason is probably like you kill one snake, you know what? There's another fucking snake. By the way, I will swear, as you'll hear in my story, I grew up in Australia and we swear all the time and it doesn't mean anything. And if you are offended by my swearing, I will forgive you. Because the only way you could be offended is because you're in judgment that it's not okay to swear. So I forgive you for your judgment. And that's okay too. Let's make this, the other thing I want to do is like, final thing before I have started, right? Final thing is, let's make this place, this call here, a place of support and connection and non-judgment, where we can achieve a level of understanding, because it's when we understand it and we understand the steps that we can take to solve it, both stop it happening, stop yourself getting bitten by snakes. Far better to wear boots when you go walking in the bush, right? That'll stop because the snakes will be there. And if you're wearing boots, you don't get bitten so much. Like that's, you know, like that's how I approach this. Yeah. So let's make this a place of understanding what we need to do to stop it happening. And where my work and life is focused is understanding and knowing what we need to do to assist those who have been bitten by the snake, to find the anti-venom, to re-alchemize that poison. So is that okay? Should we carry on with this? Does that feel like that's a good basis to work from today? Yeah. If you have a burning question for me, please put it in the chat box and I will, where it's appropriate, I'll weave it in, but I may not answer it straight away then. So I'll take a sip of water and then let's begin. So as you'll probably tell from my accent, I grew up in Australia. My parents were British. They emigrated to Australia when I was about 2. My entire formative years were in Australia. I had I think what would be considered a pretty normal, happy childhood. That's not to say it was perfect, but it was certainly not imperfect. My parents were entrepreneurs. They started a business. There were times when my mum used to say there was a time when they had 3 loans, and 2 went out monthly and 1 went out quarterly. And the month that quarterly loan went out, and that was to set up the business, they had something like $5 for the week's food. And I remember having brown rice and Vegemite as a dinner. Brown rice and Vegemite as like that was dinner. And I used to love it. It never occurred to me that we were poor. Oh, brown rice and Vegemite, my favorite. And it's like, do you know what? I still eat brown rice and Vegemite. It's like that's one of my comfort go-to foods. Brown rice and Vegemite. So we, you know, it wasn't idyllic. We weren't rich. We weren't poor. I grew up with my family being, you know, normal squabbles, family bickering. That is absolutely normal. Yeah, you know, my dad was brilliant at sulking and having temper tantrums, and you know, and it was just, you know, it was normal shit. I remember, you know, my dad, he ran a software company, and whenever he was doing coding, like, you know, coding, computer code, and he was doing debugging, don't bother dad when he's debugging, because you're bound to get a tongue lashing, an absolute, like he's got no tolerance for that, for anything. So, but you know, like that's normal, right? What kid has, you know, like that? It was like there was no, you know, drama, trauma. I came from some abuse, like, which is to say, my life was normal. I had, you know, my life was going to the beach, going out camping in the bush, going fishing, sleepovers with my friends. My parents were very, you know, I remember one time I spent about 3 weeks at my friend Jackie Hill, who may be watching this. And I remember every day I'd phone my mum and I'd say, I'm staying another night at Jackie's. Okay. And then the next day, I'm like, should we stay? I'm staying another night at Jackie's. And I remember I must have been there about 3 weeks one summer. She had a pool, you see. Not only was she really cool, she also had a pool. Cool with a pool, right? Oh, yeah. We were a little bit tearaway-ish, I guess. When I was 12, I was in a music lesson, and that's when I met, and I will call him Gary, and that is not his real name. That's when I first met Gary, the music teacher. And I was having normal music lessons, and I used to love to sing, and I was in the choir, and I was in band, in the school band. And there was one moment, so then he approached me and he said, you know what, you'd be you'd be really good if you had private lessons in the guitar rather than group lessons. So I asked my mum, could I have private lessons? She said yes. So I started having private lessons at the school. So he would, I'd get taken out of the class, 30 minutes a week, given a private lesson. This happened for, a couple of terms, I can't remember the length of time. And then there was one day he handed me a slip of paper with his phone number on it. And he just said, oh, you know what? You're a pretty cool kid. Just call me. Just call me when you want to talk. And so I did. This was hugely flattering. This is how it starts, with the flattering. He made me feel special. He told me things about, oh, you're different from the other kids. You're smarter, cooler, prettier, better at music, a better singer, all this stuff. I mean, and it's all, bullshit flattering. So this is the first thing. They get you hooked in with flattery, making you feel special and that you have a special place in their life. So making you feel special, and then giving me the phone number, making you feel that you have a special place in their life. And it seemed like, to a 12-year-old's perspective, nearly 13-year-old, it was about 12, 13 when he gave me his phone number, like this was an amazing, an amazing kind of romantic experience. And he led me to believe that this was, that he was interested in me as an equal as his girlfriend. And this experience progressed and progressed. So I was phoning him almost every night. Then I started to go around and visit him, started to hang out with him. And my parents were pretty cool about it because he was a teacher, right? Like you trust a teacher. He's doing some, giving me some extra voice coaching lessons or, and I went to the kind of school, and this is another piece of the puzzle. I went to the kind of school where extra support from the teachers was normal. And so I was also getting some extra math support from the maths teacher. Well, and, who knows? It could have been that I don't want to indict the maths teacher. Like, who knew what that was about, right? All I know is my experience, and that's what I'm going to talk from. So this relationship continued and continued, and it became more and more intimate, and at the same time, more and more demanding. He was very insistent that I did things that he wanted me to do, that I was available when he wanted me to be available. If I was out with my friends, he got very grumpy. So, and this is kind of how it starts to happen. One of the pieces is there's a fair amount of social isolation. They remove and I'll use the word abuser and victim, but that's not how I experience it. But they remove you either physically or emotionally from your support network. And he did this by insisting that I was available for him at any time, all the time. So he would phone and wanted me to be there for him at random times. And if I wasn't, he'd get really mad. And he would do lots of emotional blackmailing stuff. Like, it culminated in him threatening to kill himself if I wasn't available all the time. Now that's a lot for, I think I was 14 when he was starting to do that. That's a lot for a 14-year-old to take. Like to feel, and like on the one hand, it's like, oh my God, he loves me so much. I'm so special. I'm the one I'm the only one for him. Notice the flattery. And then there's this emotional blackmail piece. So this is how they start to enslave your mind. It's an enslavement of the mind, not the body. So I'm just trying to, what I would really love, it would really help me, is if you can possibly put yourself on camera, because then I can eyeball you and I can get a feel of how you're receiving this. If you can, if you're in a position where it's really not possible, I get that. But if you can possibly, let's keep it all friendly if you can. And Rachel may have a random kitten, and that's okay. We love kittens. So he was 13 when, I was 13 when he first attempted penetrative sex. I was 14 when he succeeded. And by the time I was 15, I was effectively his house prisoner. So the question then people often ask is, how did that happen? How did that transpire? So what happened was he decided to move to the UK from Australia to further his music career. And the theory was that I was going to follow at some point later. And he pretty much got to England, and within a matter of, I think days, the emotional blackmail really started. And he absolutely said that he would kill himself if I didn't come, if I didn't fly out to England. People are apologizing for not being able to be seen. That's okay. That's absolutely fine. I understand. It was only if you could. And he and I put tremendous pressure on my mum to send me. And and a lot of the questions and the attacks have been around, like, what was your mum thinking? And my mum was thinking, what the fuck do I do here? Because we've had lots of conversations about it. That's exactly what my mum was thinking. Like, how do I get out of this? She thought and sensed, and I think she was pretty wise, my mum. She believed that my mind had been so enslaved that if she didn't send me, that I would either run away and go anywhere, and I might well have done, I've no idea, or that he might do something, Gary might do something, like attempt suicide, and that would be a lot for a 14-year-old girl to handle. So can you imagine, like, and so the alternative is she sends me, but with the understanding that we stay in touch and that it's for a limited time. Now, to this day, we'll never know if that was the right decision. I know where I've got to in my life. I'm cool with it. I'm absolutely cool with it. So, I flew to England, moved into his flat, and then it was pretty much once there, like every time there was I might go home. So I was supposed to go home at, I flew out on the 14th of February, which was just 2 weeks after my 15th birthday. And that summer, I was British summer, for those of you who might be in Australia watching, British summer is, so that summer kind of June, July time, the idea was I was supposed to fly home with my mum, go see Disneyland on the way, or Disney World, I forget which one, and then go home and resume my normal schooling. To this day, I've still not seen Disneyland. So, okay. So my mum came over, and again, he and I put, and I will totally own this, I put pressure on my mum. I cannot say, oh, he did it, and no. At that point, and I think my mum knew it, that my mind was so enslaved, I absolutely believed I had to stay with him. I was the love of his life, he was the love of my life, and I had to stay with him. And so my mum, against every probably mother's instinct, and we've talked long and late into the night over this, over many strange cigarettes. I don't drink alcohol, but strange cigarettes. So over many a long night, we've had these conversations, and what if? Was it the right thing to do? Wonder what would happen if? And we've both always come to the conclusion and the realization that at the time, given those circumstances, that was the best decision. So when I say I was a virtual house prisoner, so one of the ways that mind enslavement happens is there are actually multiple forms of what I would call violence, and they're not necessarily physical violence. And I'll explain them. So one of the forms of violence is social, and that's so they isolate you from any support network. So he did that pretty well. I'm in a strange country. I have one phone call a week with my parents, and my parents were insistent on that. Even though there were times when I refused to speak, I would hold the phone and I would do barely more than just grunt. And I totally own that that's what I did. And I don't blame myself, I don't judge myself, but that's where I was, aged 15. If anyone knows any 15-year-olds, it's probably a normal conversation with a 15-year-old, right? And that, to this day, is the thing that saved me. The fact that my mother, despite all the agony that she must have been in, knowing that I was in, she knew the situation. I don't think she knew how bad it was until afterwards, but she had a pretty good idea. But she maintained that contact, and she insisted. Then Where did I go there? So social isolation. So I had no friends. My friends were in Australia. I had no family. My family are in Australia. I had nothing. So that's social isolation. So you have no immediate support network. The other piece to this is the psychological violence. So social violence keep you completely separate. Then there's the psychological violence. And the psychological violence is just the constant onslaught of you're not really quite good enough. And we'll just leave it at that. But you guys, you know, anyone who's been in any difficult situation will have, you've been in that situation. I mean, anyone who's been in an abusive relationship will, or have heard of one, will know that, you know, you're no good, you're lucky to have me, no one else would have you, you're a terrible person, and all that, you know, all that. And that, you know, that on a daily basis, you know, it's like affirmations don't work brilliantly to change your beliefs, but they do work if you say them often enough with enough power. And negative affirmations work in the same way. So that's psychological violence. And he did a whole bunch of other things. Like he was controlling about everything, controlling about what I ate, controlling about what I wore, controlling about what I watched on TV, if I watched anything, when I slept. And he did a lot of things, and it wasn't like, and this is, you know, a lot of people think, oh, so he, you know, forced you to stay awake. No, he didn't. What he did was, he was a musician and he would practice with his amplifier at top volume in the bedroom next to where I was sleeping, because he had to practice, right? And I was being the really selfish person by not respecting his craft. Like, you notice how, like, so there's a whole load of mind fuckery that goes on. It's a technical term, mind fuckery. So, social violence, psychological violence. Then the next one is economic violence. So my mum actually sent me an allowance because she said, I don't want you ever to be financially dependent on anyone else. Well, that worked sort of up to a point, but he just took it. He just took my money, took all my money. So I had no funds. And we know a lot of people who are in those, you know, and, you know, young kids, they don't have access to money, right? So that's one of the ways that they kind of get you. So psychological, social, economic. Now, the other form of violence that's really common is sexual violence. Now, a lot of people think of sexual violence as just rape. It's just, you know, and that happened. That was something I experienced. But it's really control of the sexual relationship. And one of the ways that it can also happen is you have this belief that you are in this romantic relationship with someone who loves you. And then they tell you you're so disgustingly unattractive that no one would fuck you. Notice the referential index switch there. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, slipped out of my body there. Okay, so, and that's, you know, like having that as an experience, all of that. So so what do we got? Social, economic, psychological, sexual. And the fifth form of violence is physical, where they hit you. Do you know how many times Gary hit me? Once. And even then it wasn't a big violent, it was just it was a shove, because I wasn't obeying him instantly. And this is one of the things when people say, and I get a little bit mad, and maybe I should do my own emotional release, but I get mad, not because I'm triggered, but because it's a belief and boundaries violation. When I see people say, well, why didn't she just leave? And it's like, so you got no friends, no money, no self-confidence, no energy, you got no support network. How the fuck would you leave? And that's the piece that I think is totally, like, they don't need to lock anyone up. Chains are utterly unnecessary. When your mind is enslaved, they don't need to lock you up. So the next question people ask me is how did I actually get out? So one of the things he used to do is when he was really pissed off with me, and it was a weird thing. He called it a lock-in, but like there wasn't always a key. He didn't always. So he used to push me in the back bedroom, and there was pretty much nothing in that room. It's pretty much an empty room. And he would tell me not to leave until I had learned to behave myself. And there was one night I was in a lock-in and in incredible, incredible pain and suffering. Pain and suffering aren't always the same thing. And I remember really, really praying and wishing and hoping and saying, somebody must get me out of this. Please, somebody, see what's happening and get me out of this. I just wish somebody would come and help me get out of this. And I wanted to leave for years. Now, the other bit of psychological mindfuckery is what they do is so he convinced me that if I left ever, that he would kill himself. He would be destitute without my money. And I believed I was responsible for him. And so I couldn't, in my head, like I knew I would say the words, I can't leave, because if I leave, he'll go broke or kill himself. And that will be my fault. So I'd taken responsibility for him. And that's kind of another thing that abusers tend to do. Anyway, so I'm in this back room. And I remember, excuse me. I remember just wanting to get out and not knowing how to do it. And just saying over and over and over to myself, oh, somebody must see this. They must see this. Somebody must see this. Please come, somebody come and get me out of here. And I just kept saying this over and over and over again. And then I had the weirdest experience. And I heard this voice, and it was as if it was shouting at me. And what I heard it say, and it's like, do you know when you hear someone shouting out of a car, you know? And like you kind of like the sound is sort of slightly distorted and it kind of comes at you and then goes away with the whole Doppler effect. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like that kind of, that's how it sounded. And I heard this sound kind of rush past me. And all I heard was, no one is coming! No one! And I remember hearing that, and it felt like a punch in the heart, a punch in the face, a punch, like I felt it physically. It was like, oh, no one, that's it. No one's coming. No one is ever going to come. But that was actually one of the single most powerful things that I realized. Because, and I don't know if it was like how long after I heard that. I know I went into this despair of no one's coming. But at some point after that, I heard myself say to myself, I said to myself, well, I guess I better stop waiting for no one then. Because if no one's coming, the only way I'm going to get out of this is myself. And at that moment, I did not know how. I didn't know when. I had no fucking idea. Everybody on the call, just take a moment to breathe. I can feel it all. I can feel you guys. And it's okay, and I'm okay. So in that moment, which was hearing that no one was coming, was actually the single most powerful thing that I could hear and realize, because I stopped waiting and I made the decision to get out myself. Now, it took me a while, but I did eventually leave. Now, a lot of people, and I remember the day I left, I remember packing my stuff up, and my superhero was one friend I had at school. And one of the things that always makes me cry is the amount of support, because I was overwhelmed with the support that I didn't think was there, but when I needed it, absolutely showed up. So two things happened. So first of all, I spoke to my mum and I said, you know, I think I want to leave. And this is, take note, anyone who knows anyone who is in a situation like this. So here's what she didn't do. Oh, well, I told you so. I knew it was going to be in a matter of time. Yeah, whatever. None of that. All she said was, what do you need? How can I help? What do you need? And I said, I need the deposit for a bed sit and the first month's rent. And not once did she say, oh, I'm already paying you rent. Why don't you do it? She just said, okay, how much? And my friend from school, I know we all need tissues. I should have said, Orla Murphy. I don't know if Orla Murphy will ever hear this. Orla Murphy and her Fiat fucking Panda. I've just bought my daughter a new car, and I did try very hard to get her to buy a Fiat Panda because I have a lot of love and respect for the Fiat Panda. And with her Fiat Panda, we filled up the boot of her Fiat Panda 3 times and shuffled it from one piece of London, one area in London to another. I had a couple of suitcases of clothes, some boxes of books, and some art stuff, and that was about it. I didn't have a lot. 3 Fiat Panda boots. And she helped me get out. Now, at this point, a lot of people go, wow, the day is saved, you're free. And this is where it took me, one of the questions people ask, like, so are you healed now? And I always answer like this. I say, I believe I've released everything I'm conscious of. And anytime that something ever comes into my conscious awareness, I release that too. And by the way, my tears now, they're tears of love for the response of the support that I got. They were like, and the lack of judgment. So I am going to do a whole call on how you can help people, because we won't have time today. But one of the things I will say is that when you find anyone is in that situation, just don't be, oh, how terrible, because then they're having this experience and now it's a terrible experience. And just be out of judgment, and be out of judgment of their choices, of their partner, of their wanting to leave, or anything. Just no judgment. Just be there and go, okay, what do you need? How should we do this? How do you want it to work? That, if you do that, and you know what? I dare you all to post that on your Facebook wall to anyone who's in a situation where they feel they can't get out. What do you need? Message me. I dare you all. And you may not be able to give it, but maybe someone else can. And maybe you might say, okay, I can't do that, but I know someone who can. Who's going to do it? Who's gonna, I don't know, take the dare? We got Kerry, Joy, one of the Joys, Raluca, I think that was Sandra. I'm not sure if I've missed you. It's probably because I can't see. Who's going to do it? Who's going to take the dare? Post it on your Facebook. Anyone who's in a situation, an abusive situation, what do you need? And you want to get out, what do you need? I may not be able to help, but if I can, I will. If I can't, I'll see if I can find someone, or I'll share this. Message me. I know someone who. What if we fucking did that? Whoa. I'm going to give you another dare later on. I like dares. I double dare you. So after I left, this is when the real work for me started. The realizing that I had agoraphobia, social anxiety disorder, PTSD, a whole bunch of things that you might label it. I mean, it was just, we'll summarize it as felt a little bit fucked up. And at the time I had no idea that not feeling this pain feeling this level of pain wasn't normal. I thought everyone felt like this. I thought this was how life was. Because my mind had been so enslaved, I had no clue who I was. I didn't even know what food I liked to eat. I ate the same meal almost every day for months because I had no clue how to choose what I wanted to eat. And bizarrely, that reminds me, like one of the things that's like, the big challenge of my day right now in my life, my daily life, is my husband does most of the cooking. How wonderful is that? And every day he says, what do you want me to cook for you tomorrow? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Don't make me decide that. So Oh, great question. Actually, if there's any questions, come in. So was Gary present and watching you when you were packing your bag? So somebody's asked that. And the answer is yes, I did tell him I was going to leave. And here's the thing, because by the time I'd made the decision and I was starting to act on it, he knew he'd lost me. He knew he'd lost me. Now, I can't speak for other situations where, and I know there is situations where women are in, men are in, that are much more physically violent and that kind of thing. So I don't know that, can't speak to that. But my observation, and this is the observation of many of the people I've worked with, that once they make the decision and their abuser knows that they're in the enslavement of the mind is now broken. Once it's really broken, they actually no longer try and they kind of move on. So one of the things that I did, and I'm going to share with you a resource, is that I'd love to get out there. So I did a whole bunch of therapies, and I found some exciting and amazing and curious things. So I did psychotherapy, psychodrama, group therapy. I did NLP, timeline therapy, hypnosis, right through to trainer level. I did a lot of spiritual development. I learned to meditate, had a load of weird experiences. And I've written a book called I Loved a Pedophile, which technically, a great question from Valerie there. So technically, he was actually what's known as a hebephile. I don't know how to spell that. So a pedophile is somebody who is sexually attracted to very, very young children. My abuser was actually a hebephile, which is significantly more common. Pedophiles are really rare, really, really rare. It takes a level of kind of distortion of their personality to be able to be sexually attracted to very little children. But hebephiles, which are kind of pubescent and just barely prepubescent adolescents. So pubescent adolescents, if somebody's sexually attracted to them, that's known as, that's technically a hebephile, but nobody ever knows that. I've done my research, right? Read a lot of books, read a lot of papers. So I did a lot of work, searching to find a level of wholeness and integration. And I found several things, and I found that there are two real branches to healing, and they both work, but they both have limitations. So one we'll call the kind of mainstream Western medicine-y type. So that's psychoanalysis, psychotherapy, NLP, hypnosis, which have got a significant, and counseling. They have a significant amount of respect to greater or lesser levels in the psychological and psychotherapeutic community. NLP, some people say it's loaded, we won't go there, but these things, they approach it from the perspective of understanding what happened, understanding the process, changing the thoughts and the behavior, which sometimes changes the feelings. Then the other approach is the approach of the energy healers, theta healing, quantum healing, shamanic work, higher self therapy, Huna, EFT, the tapping. And they come at this from the perspective of releasing the energy. And they both abso-fucking-lutely work. But if you change the emotion and the thought and the behavior, the energy is still there. And that's why people often revert. They often revert back. And if you release the energy, but the thoughts and the emotions and the behaviors are still there, the patterning is still there, the energy might be gone, but then those thoughts and behaviors can then recreate that energy and rebuild it up. So what I've done, and I will be completely unashamedly bragging about this, I've created an entire new technology that works with both, and it's called conscious emotional transformation, which enables total trauma recovery. Now, here's my other dare for you. When COVID-19 hit and we realized that there was like a huge number of people in pain, and by the way, and you know, they're in shock, they were afraid, they're afraid of getting the virus, they're afraid of going, all that, you know, all that stuff. So what I did was I just put it out there for free. And here's my second dare for you. If you've been emotionally impacted by anything I've shared today, or you know someone who has, some lovely person is going to drop a link in this chat box, and we'll also put it out on Facebook. This is a completely free gift, and it's called SET, C-E-T, Conscious Emotional Transformation, and it enables the release of emotions and energy. It resets you to your norm. That's, you know, like this, I'm just gifting this to you guys. You know, this is just my gift to the world, but it does come with a dare or a little clause. So first is, yes, you do need to put in your email, and that's because we need to energetically charge it to make it work. The link is in the thing there, in the chat box there. So the reason we need to collect your email is we need to know who to activate it for. So we need your name and email, and there's a little thing. So that's why we do that. And we don't even put you on the, like, our normal list. Like, so you're not going to get, this isn't like a sales ruse. This is just because we want to get this out there. But we do have a little condition, which is this: pass it on. That's all I ask. So here we are in this place. We've got COVID-19, we're in a pandemic, we're in economic freefall. The economy has broken in most countries. Society is weird. We're in this isolation, and there's so much hatred and polarization and separation. I think the world fucking needs this. And that's why I created it. I mean, this is what I do. I train people to be professional SET practitioners. If you're interested in that, let us know, and we'll talk to you about how you can do that. And I'll do that on a future call, and we won't, we'll just set aside some time for those of you who are interested, but that's not what this is about. This is about getting this message out. So, Joyce said, makes sense to work with both. Yeah. And this is what, and it's like, you've got this kind of alternative, it's all about the energy. And then the mainstream, no, it's all about the mind. And it's like, no, it's both, baby. It's both. So let's get SET out there, and let's set people's minds free. Should we do that? Who's going to take the dare? Who's going to take the dare? Get SET out there. Share it with your friends. Think of right now 3 friends. Now, your friends may not need it. And I actually just want to speak to this, right? A lot of people are in a place of it's still not okay for them to feel their own feelings. And your friends may never say, oh, I need an emotional release process. But Kerry says, already shared. Boom. Love you, Kerry. By the way, Kerry is one of our fabulous people who is fabulous students who is training in SET, training in on our spiritual practitioner course, one of our amazing students. I know we got lots. We got Joel, Nick is a tutor, Rach, who else we got? Oh gosh, Shefton, Vips, Catherine, Jody, Diana. If I've missed you, know that you are still my favorite. Patience, there you are, because I couldn't see your face. So please pass this on. And here's an easy way of doing it, because a lot of people, and I will speak to this, there is tremendous shame, and I will own this, that I have been in this place. There is, and it took me a long time to get out of the place of blaming my abuser and being in the place where I could own my role in getting myself into that situation, but without blaming myself. Yeah. But there's a lot of shame because people, you know, society judges. Yeah. And it's like, I felt this huge judgment of like, oh, you know, I'm promiscuous. I'm a slut because I went with him willingly. So it wasn't easy for me to own that I actually needed help without, you know, it wasn't easy. And that's where a lot of people you may know may be. So we don't come at this. So there's another top tip for how to help people. Don't come at this from the, I think you need some healing. Patronizing fucking bullshit. Nobody needs healing, right? But they might know somebody who does. Right? So you say, look, I've heard of this great resource for assisting people to release emotions. I'll explain briefly how it's completely different in a minute. But just say, look, I don't know if you need this, but maybe you know somebody who does. Could you pass it to them? And have a look at it yourself too if you feel called. And this is all about, you know, if you feel called. Just if you feel called. Yeah. So I'll just explain a little bit how it's different. Just because I think it's really cool. And this explains how it's really powerful. So I've already explained how the kind of Western mainstream stuff works on changing the thought patterns. That's what cognitive behavioral therapy works on, changing the thought patterns. Psychotherapy, counseling, I know, Kerry, I think you came to this from a counseling perspective. Counseling, talking it out, it absolutely has some benefit. You get some understanding, but it doesn't necessarily address the energetic. And one of the things about your neurology, so SET works on several basic assumptions. The first assumption is that you are an infinite being of energy. And you might use the word love, prana, chi, light, shakti, whatever, infinite being of energy. And the idea, the second presupposition, is that energy should flow infinitely throughout your entire being. When that energy is resisted or blocked or stopped, what you feel is the resistance to energy. So if we say the energy, which I just call it love energy. So the other presupposition is actually only one emotion, and it's love. And there's love and the absence or resistance of love. So energy and love should flow through your being. And then something happens that you install I'm a bad person. And the energy tries to flow and it hits this and it can't flow. So you feel that as some kind of emotional pain. And you can label it. It doesn't matter what the fucking label is. Anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, shame. I don't know, whatever. It doesn't, whatever frustration, whatever, hatred. It's a negative emotion, but it's actually the resistance to love. And your neurology is a difference seeking engine. I know it's not an engine, but I did engineering at uni, so I use a lot of engineering kind of metaphors. So just roll with it with me, guys, right? So what happens is your neurology, so this side, love is trying to flow, hits the resistance, and on this side it builds up, and on this side it depletes. And what you feel is the difference. Now, so a lot of energy release processes, what they do is they release the energy from this side and they fill it up this side. Great, you're balanced, you feel good. But here's the problem, the resistance is still there. So after a while, this one fills up again, this one's depleted, and then you feel it again. And that's why a lot of therapies, they do absolutely work, they rebalance and all that, but it doesn't address the releasing of the resistance. So when you do both, releasing the resistance and allowing that rebalancing to happen, the problem is gone. Now, and I want you to really explain this. So Kerry said counseling and energy work combined, and SET is my next step. I know we've already put the date in the diary for your initiation, babes. Yes. So the thing about SET is, it's not that you feel better. It's not that you understand the problem. It's not that you're working through it. It's not that you're processing, by the way. Like if you're processing, it's not gone, right? When you use SET, the emotion is gone. It's just gone. And this, so Valerie asked this question, and Kerry, yeah, you can absolutely, let me answer Valerie's question. So Valerie said, had you gotten rid of the level of hatred? I'm not sure where you were talking about there. Where was I in the story when I said that?
You're talking about leaving. What I wanted to know is, had you gotten to the point that you had begun to just hate him so much?
Do you know what? Here's the weird thing. I'm glad you asked that. When I left, I didn't hate him. When I left, I still loved him. And I felt this incredible guilt. I knew I had to leave. And I felt this incredible guilt that I was leaving the love of my life. It took me 6 months before I even could begin to feel anything like a little bit pissed off with him. And I remember speaking, it was poor Orla, I apologize. I remember chatting to Orla once, and she was saying something that someone had done. And then it's like a little thing happened, and there was like a floodgate. It's like, and then he did this, and then he did this, and he did this. And can you believe he said that? Can you believe this? And I, honestly, poor Orla. And she just sat and listened. Other top tip, if you're ever with somebody, just listen. Don't judge, just listen. It took me 6 months before I even hated him or felt anything like, maybe that wasn't such a great relationship after all. And that's how the mind fuckery works. Like, that's what I want you to understand. Like, I mean, you could also chalk it up to, like, must have been a pretty dumb, naive person. And yeah, I was 12 when I got into the relationship with him. What 12-year-old has any clue what a normal relationship is like? Yeah. So Kerry, let's come to you. So let's just open it up now. If anyone has any questions, I'm here to answer anything. And as I said, we'll do another call. On our next call, I'm going to share how you can help somebody get out, or who has got out, how you can help them to heal. Okay, other than passing set to them, which obviously you can, but there's a whole bunch of other things that would really, really help. So, but let's come to, and Kerry and anyone else, if you've got a question, just let me know. Kerry.
Hi.
Hiya.
A couple of things, my darling. Probably leading on to a question, but first of all, observations. When you heard that no one is coming, what's your guide called?
No One Guide.
So, was it possible you saw them coming, but you didn't realise it at the time?
Actually, I do know who that was. And let me tell you. So I developed a process which you are going to learn called time bending, and you send your past self messages back. And I remember I learned time bending, and I regularly do time bending. So I invite my future self to come back. What do I need to know? What's going on in the future? And I send my past self stuff, you know, like, even like I'll get a realization about something that happened, you know, when I was 5, and it's like, oh, I'm going to tell my 5-year-old self that. Yeah, you know what, like, I'm going to tell myself, it's just a leech, don't worry about it. I had a freak out when I got a leech on my butt. It's just a leech, don't worry about it, it's okay. Leeches are fine, leeches are great. So my 5-year-old self was like, oh yeah, it's just a leech, Mum, look. Anyway, so, and I remember getting this realization, and I remember like going, oh my God, that voice was me. At some point in the future, I've sent that message back. And then I got this other little weirdness. It was like, it was you now, do it now. So I remember going, okay, right. So I did the thing, which is a particular process. You go into a little trance state, and I was like, and I really fucking screamed at myself, no one is coming, get the fuck out yourself. And along the way, like, I mean, and I run my business and my whole life very intuitive. This post I did last Friday, which has snowballed. Like, we've had 90 odd comments and something like 18 shares. And like, when you count the shares of shares, I've never had, you know, like, I normally just post weird shit, but like, I was called to post this. And like, this is me following my intuition. And how do we know that my intuition isn't my future self? So great question, Kerry. The voice was my future self who'd gone back to tell my past self, no one is coming. And again, you're going to learn that on Spirit Prac. Yeah. You're in the right place.
My second observation.
Yes.
When I experienced a welling of your emotion about not going to Disney, my head heard the words that Disney's known as the kingdom, a magical kingdom, and I don't know anyone who's able to connect with the magical kingdom more than you, honey.
Say that last bit again. I don't
know anyone who's more able to connect with a magical kingdom than you.
Thank you. I don't need to go to Disney. I actually don't really have a need to go to Disney. I don't.
My third part is, I don't know how many people recall the guy who in Switzerland kept his daughter captive for a long time. And at the time, I instinctively knew not to hate. And I challenged a lot of people when it was talked about in public arenas, saying, how ill as a human being have you got to do that to another? And that if his illness was being fed through anger and fear, everybody sending thought forms of anger and fear was only going to feed it more.
Exactly. And here's the thing. This is a beautiful observation. One of the things that a lot of people assume that I will hate, and they will assume that I will hate all pedophiles or hebephiles or people who abuse. And the thing is, you know, and this is pretty well known now, that the only way somebody can behave like that to someone else is they feel pretty shitty about themselves. And one of the reasons they feel pretty shitty about themselves is, I mean, you've used a very spiritually technical term, thought form, which is where you send a thought plus emotion to someone. But you know what? It's like living in a society where it's like, oh, if anyone found out I was doing this, they'd probably really hate me. And so they probably really hate themselves. So they're already doing it to themselves. They're feeling that. And, you know, that's where they are. They're in that place of feeling that self-hatred. I also, this is a crazy, this is why I wanted to share this here privately. So what I'm about to say is going to be really controversial. And a lot of people may, and that's okay. I'm not saying, you know, I'm right. I'm just going to share my thoughts on this. See, a pedophile or a hebephile, this is a distortion of power. And somebody who feels powerless and they still want to be loved and to love. And by the way, I'm in no way condoning this. I'm giving an explanation and how we can prevent it. But somebody who doesn't feel able to have power with rather than power over. And their experience of power is they feel that they are overpowered by something or someone else. And so their entire experience of power is hierarchy or linear. Somebody's more powerful than me, so I need, and the only way I can feel powerful is to feel power over someone or something else. This is why people are unkind to animals. This is why people are unkind to others. Now, so if you think about it, this person has a need or a desire for both love, because it's a fundamental basic human need to have a loving connection, and they're incapable of experiencing power in any other way other than power over. So they will seek out a relationship with someone that they're pretty much guaranteed to be in a power over situation, i.e. a minor, a juvenile, a child. You with me? Is this all making sense? This is yes. Yeah. So what we need to have is I think this is what I would love to see in the world. I'd love to see a change in how we do power and judgment, because judgment is a wielding of power, and it's power over. So if we have a change in the way we use and abuse power with ourselves, with each other, and how we allow it to be used on ourselves, and this is about self-mastery, the extent to which we have self-mastery, and you know, look at the way he enslaved me, right? With those 5 things, and violence was the last. So those 4 enslavements: emotional, psychological, social, financial, sexual. If you have mastery over your emotional realms, you don't need approval, acknowledgement from someone else. You might desire it and like it, but you don't have like, I'm not complete unless I find my soulmate or anyone really. People are going, oh yeah, that one, right? If you have financial independence, and that doesn't mean having money, that means having the means to generate money. If you have that, yeah. If you have independence over your own sexual energy and sexual response, and you have sovereignty and self-mastery there, and if you have social self-mastery. So you don't need others emotionally. You don't need them socially. You can like being around other people, but you're okay. You know, like I've been really okay. Like honestly, like when COVID hit and like everyone was going, oh my God, I can't go out. I'm a house prisoner. And it's like, house prisoner for 5 years. Hold my beer. I got this. I had trained for this. This is what I've been training for. Oh, but we are allowed out to go exercise, and I can talk to whoever I want on the phone whenever I want. And what kind of fucking lockdown is that? House prisoner-ness is that? They're not even trying. I can still eat whatever I want. I can get up, go to bed, watch whatever I want on TV. So when an individual has a level, I suddenly went off on a tangent there, I apologize. When an individual has a level of self-mastery, they cannot be controlled. And this is what I believe we should teach our children. We should teach our children, because if children have self-mastery, they don't get subjected to that flattery. Like they're not susceptible. Sorry, that's the word. They're not susceptible to that flattery. And I'm in no way blaming my upbringing that I was susceptible. I own that. And that's been the culture, and it still is. So did that make sense, everyone? Does that kind of make sense? Like this piece about self-mastery. And it's like, when the way to change this is if we all have self-mastery, then no one can ever have power over us. We are always in our own power source. So Sarah said, power balance seems like a continuous loop. Might be, but this is how, there's another philosophy that I talk about, which I call circle and line, which is one of the things we do on some of our advanced trainings. And it's how we pierce. So this power is like that hierarchy that's linear. And the thing is, somebody is always better than you and someone's always worse than you. But when you have circle, we're all together and we're all equal, but there's no growth. And when the line pierces the circle, you get a spiral, and that's where you get growth and expansion, and you can move along that continuum. You're not trapped in the circle, and you're not trapped by the line, because the line has been pierced, the circle's been pierced by the line, and the line has been expanded into a spiral. I normally do that in like an hour's training, and it's a bit beyond where we're going today. Sarah has asked, did I ever see Gary again? Yeah, I did. And you know what was really interesting? So he knew he'd lost me. Where are you, Sarah? There you are. He knew he'd lost me. I'd moved out, and I actually went, and this is really interesting, I went back for my guitar. I left my guitar there, and I went back for it. On my next call, I haven't got it here, it's in my other room. I will bring my guitar and I will show you my guitar. Still can't fucking play it, but you know, it's still there. It's there. John says, you know what, that guitar is worth a fortune. When we're like, well, why don't you sell it? Someone else like, no, that's my guitar. I went back for my guitar, and he was a bit shitty because in his head it was his guitar. And I just said, you know, and he tried all of the stuff that he used to try that used to work. And I remember standing at the top of the stairs to the flat with my guitar and my vacuum cleaner. Because I'd bought myself, my mum asked me, what did I want for my 18th birthday? And I said, I really want a new vacuum cleaner. What fucking 18-year-old wants a vacuum cleaner like that? Yeah, and I have to say, I still have a very special place in my heart for white goods. And into my house, I've got all the white goods. I have 2 fridges and a chest freezer, 2 washing machines and a tumble dryer. Yes, it's an obsession. It's not an obsession. I just like white goods. It's actually how I feel independent. Anyway, I just like it. Anyway, so Kerry says, have to go back to work. Love this. I'm passionate about ceasing the abuse of anyone's power, especially children. Thank you so much, Lisa. See you on the next activation call. I'm actually not on the next activation call, but I'll see you on the next activation call that I am on. Yes. Love you, Kerry. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. I felt it. So I remember standing at the top of the stairs, his stairs, with my vacuum cleaner in one hand and my guitar in the other, and he was doing all the mind fuckery. And I remember just trying it on, and I remember looking at him, and I've lost Sarah. Oh, there she is. Because when somebody leaves, everyone moves around. And I remember, and I don't even remember what I said to him, but I just knew, it's like, you can't touch me now. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. And I remember that. So that was when I saw him again. But I haven't seen him since. Not ever. Did you want to share anything, Sarah?
Yeah, it just goes back to that sort of comment I made about a continuous loop and the power, because it sort of struck me that he started believing you've got that power over him because he couldn't, you know, not see through his feelings for you, and then he pushed that back on you by controlling you, and that's why, I mean, it was a continuous loop. And I do wonder at that last point when you said to, you know, you said to him that, you know, he knew he had no power over you anymore.
Yeah.
How, you know, how that his story continued, I suppose.
I do know a little of his life after I left, and I'm not gonna discuss that. That's not, it's not relevant. It's just not relevant. I do know that he has not had the same, he's not abused anyone else. That's what I do know that. So any other, thank you for that, Sarah. Any other questions? Owner 3 has said, I don't know who you are, my darling. Owner 3 said, I want to manifest a space like that. Yeah, I do love my house. I live in Cornwall with my dog and my 2 cats. And I have apparently 2 horses in a field that I also own. Those horses are not my horses. They're my daughter's horses. And my husband. Should have mentioned him first, really. I will release the guilt on that later. My cats! Oh, and my husband. Do you know, it's because he's so important in my life that I don't need to mention him. We've been married 20 years. I think it's 20 years. Yeah, it's 20 years. That's pretty good, isn't it? And together, 25, something like that. Lena said, what about the abuser taking responsibility for what she did and the abused one taking it on abused one take it to heal? Do you believe this was your case with Gary? Lena, darling, can you unmute? Because I'm not sure I want to make sure I answer this question. Can't see where you are. There you are. Any chance you can unmute and just clarify what you mean by, what about the abuser taking on responsibility? What do you mean by that? Are you able to do that, darling?
Bottom left of your screen.
I can probably unmute you. I can ask to unmute. That's all I can do. I can't actually unmute you. You have control. Sonia said, well done, Lisa. Thank you. I'm not sure what for, but I'll take it. I'll take any compliments coming. Oh, you're not alone. Okay. Don't have a cam or a mic. Oh, bless you. Owner 3 doesn't. Well, just type in the chat box what your name is, because I'd love to know what your name is, my love. If you feel comfortable, you say it to me privately, that's fine. Okay. Don't have to share with everyone. I respect that. So Lena, so I'll do my best. So when you say, what about the abuser taking responsibility for what he or she did? So here's my take. I can't control them. I can't make them take responsibility. All I can do is take responsibility for my own response, my own action, and my own life. All I can do is choose to live a life of, like, I live a life of such fucking fun. In fact, I was chatting with my my book editor, Jen, and we have a weird, thank you, Owner 3, I appreciate that. I have, we have this stupid game in our house. Like if anyone says certain words, it turns into a song, right? And she said the word, and she said, okay, we'll meet up on the, again, we'll do a call then, and we'll have a call then on the last day in September. And then of course we had to sing The Good Ship Sailed on the Alley, because that's what happens in our house. We have a house full of fun. And she said, your house must be so playful. And I said, yeah, you don't know the half of it. Like there are a lot of taboo things that we can't talk about in our house because someone will have to sing it. Like, you know the thing you serve out soup in. Does anyone know what that big spoon that you serve out soup in? What's that? You know, the big soup. What's that word?
Ladle.
He played upon a ladle, a ladle, a ladle. He played upon a ladle. His name was Aiken Drum. So we have a very playful, fun house. And that is how so I can't, you know what? I am not going to go and try and chase that snake and kill it and tell it to take responsibility for biting people. I will just have a fun, playful house and live a life of joy with too many cats, too many pets, too much paint in my art room. That right, Jody? I have too many art supplies, right? So, okay, so do you agree it's the abuser's role to take responsibility but not forcing it on him? If I don't believe that, oh, Judith, you got to go now. Bye. Thank you, Judith, for coming. I'm going to do another one, and I know some of your questions haven't been answered. I'll share that. I don't believe it's, I just think if somebody wants to take responsibility, that's their choice. And I can't make them do that. I don't think it's their role to do that. I do know, and this is one of the pieces that shocks a lot of people. So I've worked with hundreds of people who've been abused. Now, what I advertise somewhat less, and may shock a lot of you, may shock none of you, I don't know. I'm not going to presuppose who's going to be shocked, but it has shocked other people. I have worked with abusers. I have had in my therapy chair, toe to toe, somebody who is weeping with the guilt and the shame of what they did. And you know what we did? We released it with set. We got them back to, and that's how they did take responsibility, but that's not their role. And I did it with a full heart of love and compassion and without judgment. Because the minute I judge, they will be out of that fucking room. The minute I judge, they'll be, and that's it. That's lost. A lost opportunity. But when they're in my room, toe to toe, I don't do a lot of one-to-one work now. Now my work is all about teaching people how to do this. But when I've got somebody in my room and they want to unburden themselves of that so that they never feel the need to do that again, isn't that, I guess, how much more empowering is that for everyone if they can be in that space? And this is, you know, like edgy. Nick said, oh, let me post. Right. Okay. So Judith said she's gone. She's going, bye, Judith. Patience said she's learned a number of pearls and she's got to go back to work. And I love Patience. Megatons of love hearts. I'll take those megatons of love hearts. There will be a replay. I'm going to post the recording of this. It is recording. I just thought, shit, did I hit record? I did. Nick says, how great would the world be if everyone took responsibility for their own behavior? Yes, I added in their own, but that was me paraphrasing. That's okay. Owner 3, that's just expectations, isn't it? Lena said, that's great, no judgment. Jody says, all people that abuse that I know of are on self-destruct and eventually something has to give in them and they will have to make a choice to get help. Or yes, yeah. And look, that's your experience and that's my observation of a lot of them. I'm not going to say all of them. I kind of believe at a soul level, and I know somebody asked this question, at a soul level, we choose, and this is how I don't know if this is true, but this is how I choose to observe the world. I'm going to end on this, and then we'll do another call. I think we'll do it next Monday. I'll do how you can help people, because a lot of people have said, you know, like, because I work on this basis, I take 100% responsibility. I choose to live a life where I believe that I am the creator of my experience, and then a lot of people say, how could you possibly say you as a child or another child created that? And I go, well, I don't know if that's how it works. I just choose to believe it. I choose to work with that as a model. And here's how I think about it. Imagine all the souls like queuing up for a body. And it's a bit like playing a virtual reality game. You know, when you play, like, have you ever seen, you know, Jumanji, right? And you tap yourself on the chest and you see what I can't eat cake and whatever. I love that movie Jumanji. I was hysterical, right? And it's like, what if that's how our life is? We've got these, you know, like our soul goes in. It's like, okay, let's play a game this time. You're going to be the abuser. And I want to play the being abused, so I can have that experience. Who wants to be the abuser? And someone might go, that's a shit role. I don't want to play that role. And someone might go like, I'll do it. I've never done that before. And then when we come back into our souls, we'll go, oh my fucking God, what a ride that was. And when you did that, I didn't, there was a moment I thought he's not going to do that, but he did. Wow. And I have no fucking idea if that's a truth, but that's how I choose to experience the world. And it's not dissociation. I'm pretending it doesn't happen or it doesn't matter. Because when you're in the virtual reality, it is fucking real. You know, it's like in Jumanji, you die 3 times, you die. Right? It's real when it's in the reality. So there's no spiritual gaslighting. Oh, just pretend it's all fine and it is what it is and it's all perfect. I hate that bullshit. I hate that positive. Oh, just think positive. I will do that in another call. But that's how I choose to play. I choose to play life like it is a full soul immersion reality. And I get to choose how I experience it. So Someone says, do abused people become abusers? That's a common belief. And I don't know that that is as common as it. I think it depends what you mean by abuse. I think people who feel powerless, who have that experience of power over, I think that's a much stronger indicator of what will trigger someone to abuse. Because abuse is nothing other than abuse of power. It's power over rather than power with. And when people can get to have power with, it's like, that's what I have with my husband. We have power with. And sometimes I say, darling, you decide. I don't know. I have this thing where whenever I don't know and he asks me, I say, chops? Chops? We eat a lot of chops in our house. Excuse me. So is there any other questions? Is there anything that doesn't feel complete from our time together today? I would like you to, so there's 2 dares for you. And it's your karma whether or not you take it up. So the first dare is post on Facebook. I've just been on Lisa Turner's call and she dared me to do this. I will own that. Don't mind that. In fact, I would love it if you tagged me in it because that's how I know it. Just been on Lisa Turner's call, and let's use the hashtag. But I don't know if this is a hashtag. Just tag me in it. I've just been on Lisa Turner's call, and she dared me to put this out. If there's anyone who's in a situation where they're experiencing being abused or being in a domestic violence or an abusive relationship, private message me. And is that if you need something, the question is, what do you need? If you need something, what do you need? Private message me. If I can help, I will. If I can't, I'll see if I can find someone who can. And then let's send that out. And then just post it. Somebody has asked for. If you can't deliver it, somebody has asked for. Can you help? And then connect. Imagine if we all fucking did that. Can you feel the energy behind that? Well, I can. No, everyone's going, huh? I can. Thank you, Shefton. Then use set and pass set on. Pass set on. And join me on our next call where I'm going to share how you can help people. We'll dig a little further in what to do and what not to do to help people who are currently in or have been in an abusive situation. Think I've answered everyone's question. Think I've got that. Cool. So, huge gratitude to you guys for being here, for listening, for being open. Whew. And I will see you on the next call or not. I will see you when I see you. See you around Facebook. And I love you lots. Bye for now, everyone. Bye.